All right, back on the Mercury project. You can see I've removed the front clip. That's because we're going to do a little check-in, a little measuring, a little test and trial, and also some steering. I got this Vega steering box, universal joints, double D shaft, and a pitman arm. This should be the key to making this thing roll and steer. I got new tires, front and rear. It's all pretty much ready to rock. Well, not finished, just progressing. Let's try to make this thing steer. All right, I found this setup online and pretty cool and affordable. It was about 200 bucks. We had a little credit coming to us, so it was even less. Kit came with the Vega box, pitman arm, 2 universal joints, a plate that matches the bolt pattern of the box to weld to the chassis, and the steering shaft. 2 flat sides, the double D shaft, and then the U joints to match. One with the spline for the Vega box. That's super cool. The reason I picked this is because box mounting plate actually will go to the chassis rail, and then the pitman arm comes forward. All right, coming up to the front of the car, you can see here is the steering column, little stub sticking out right there. Steel, this is a round rod, so actually yesterday I drilled one of those U-joints to fit the round steering shaft. Chassis looks pretty straight up to weld that plate to. And then down here is the tie rod and pitman arm from the old box, and that's the same orientation as the Vega, so that's cool. Looking at this rod, we're going to want to swing just like that, and the Vega box orients that perfectly. So when this is moving this way, the wheels are turning right and vice versa. So perfect matchup. Of course, there's always an issue, and it's typical with the early cars and the modified steering and suspensions. Universal problem is the universal joints, the angle of the steering column getting to where the box is going to sit. And let me tell you, I mocked it up yesterday. It's going to be tight. It's going to be like super awkward to make that happen. Let's look at the height. All right, so here we are. Got the box here, and I'm just going to drop it down. Well, first I'm going to get this pitman arm oriented into driving straight ahead. I'm going to get this all perfectly indexed. We might have to lengthen the drag link a bit, the piece that comes off side to side in the car. But our concern, just looking, is this angle right here. See? I drilled this one out to fit this. So, wow, that angle actually turns way out. I mean, I don't think you want to be steering over that angle anyway. Let's see. This has got to drop down, 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 down. And I don't know if you can see that, but this angle ain't gonna work. So what you get into a lot is moving this point further up into the dashboard. That's gonna be a long and kind of going backwards process, but we can accomplish that because remember when we built this, if you watch that video, this end is all just come apart. So let's concentrate on the steering box right now. We'll figure that end first. It's a shame because that worked out perfectly. But you know how it goes. 1 step forward, 3 steps back. I'm going to try to put this camera under the car. All right, we've got our undercar camera in place. And again, trying to improve on it each time. So I don't know if you could see all the way through here, but these are incomplete as of yet. I haven't welded them up 100%, but we do have good clearance. There was some discussion about all this last video. So the suspension does work, right? But this is lower than it's ever going to be. So there's going to be a bump stop somewhere in here that I'm going to set. It'll probably be adjustable so that these never hit the chassis, right? So it's low. There'll be heavy shocks on it so that it doesn't bump around too much. But that's the whole thing, just, you know, setting up your clearances. And that's what we're going to deal with right here. This should probably be as parallel to the tie rod. So this is the drag link, right? And it's the tie rod. And you probably want them darn close to parallel. But I think because of our clearance issues with the car, we're going to try to sneak it up. Not hitting it, but just as close as possible. So let's just get this out of the way for the moment, and we'll see what we can get with our Vega box. If we mounted it up against the chassis, I don't know, you know, the view on the camera is a little skewed. I noticed that. We're going to have to take what we can get, but we don't want it up higher than that. Right now, remember, the chassis orientation to the suspension is as close as it's going to get because we don't want it any lower. It's going to bump. So we want this to be low. We want the steering box to come down to be at the same height as that, right? And again, never hitting it. Once this swings, it'll get further. And as that swings, it'll get further. But still, when they come straight, we don't want them to touch. Look at the creep on that thing. It's almost like it's haunted. Is it coming into position? Are we having a moment of divine intervention? Look, both of my hands are here. Yeah. That's just one of those things you can count on. Bring it into position. I know as soon as I move it, it's going to swing. So anyway, we're going to either, well, this is a tapered piece. I have the hone to do that, but see, this is set up for a heim joint. So we're going to replace this with a heim and put the heim and everything on top. But the steering box right now, that's below the chassis. Let me get this out of the way. Keep our little Ghost Rider forward. So yeah, the steering box is lower than the chassis, almost 100%. But it's pretty cool because what I'm looking at is there was something like gobbled up here. Somebody was making some kind of a thing one time in its history, and there's these two marks. And that's perfect for our alignment front to back. And that coincides with this bolt hole. So already it's like, if you could see, it's super easy for me to align this. We want that bolt hole to be drilled right through there with the bracket hanging down. But what that does, unfortunately, makes this steering shaft just really out of shape. And then what happens with the exhaust, you know, that could be an issue as well. But the exhaust, that can be modified. Steering geometry is more important than the exhaust every time. So let's just say, you know, if this is perfectly horizontal, that's best because the swing, you don't want it to be, you know, like arcing up and down. But I think we're going to cheat it just a little bit just to try to decrease that steering angle a touch. So that would move this box up to like that and forward. Man, that angle's tight. And really, this exhaust, I wish I had an exhaust to mock up, but it's going to be crazy. You know, at one point, I was almost considering like fender well headers. I might just do that. I might bring the headers out and underneath the running boards because there's a lot of room under the car and the car's not super low to the ground. So maybe I'll approach that. But like this will be cool. And just to mock it up, you know, we will loosen these bolts. We'll flip this and just bolt it through just to get a placement of it. So let's go for that. We'll go back to the table. I don't have a splitter, but sometimes we get lucky hitting that with a hammer or hitting this with a hammer. Why don't we try that first? Because one thing you don't want to do, I mean, this one is a throwaway basically, but you don't want to hit that with the hammers. It's going to mess up the threads. And these castle nuts, it's going to smash it up. Let's just try hitting that. And somebody said they saw 5 hammers sitting on the hood of the Caddy-Wacked when I was working on it. And I want to know where those hammers ended up. I think I have an axe laying in the truck. I don't have much here. Be right back. All right, I found some tools. Definitely not the right tool for the job, but is a tool for the job. Found a claw hammer. Look at that. We lucked out. Sometimes these things are unremovable. So that's cool. For now, we'll just flip this over and we'll just bolt it through for alignment and I'll replace that. Yeah. That's one thing. Sometimes with the old cars, you do just luck out. All this grease has preserved it from getting rusted stuck. I'm surprised at that unbolted, really. Put our little pliers on this. See if we can't get that to spin. There it is. And I think that might be tightening because that felt excessively tight. Let's try to spin it this way. There it is. Man, we are lucky today. Yeah. So you dig it just for our alignment now. You get that thing pointing up. That lowers that a little bit. It just gives us, you know, whatever, 1.25 inches. Gives us the ability to keep that steering box as high up as possible. Let's go over to the table and check out this box. All right, so lucky me. These are 3/8 bolts. It looks like that definitely goes on there like that. And then, yeah, these bolts are too short. I might have something else just to place it. Dang. We're going into the Burning Man bucket. Let's all join together in a nasty bucket of old hardware. All right, so it turns out I didn't have to go to the hardware store. One thing you don't see because of the editing is the furious rage and anger that develops when I'm not prepared. On a good day, even though I live closer to town, it's still a solid hour and 15 to bounce back and forth to the hardware store. Very frustrating. Anyway, I was missing some bolts. I looked through everything, and I walked back to the engine as I was turning off the camera, and laying in the valley are 3/16 bolts. I don't know what they're there for. Maybe I mocked up an exhaust at one time. I don't know. We are good to go. 3 grade 8 bolts with lock washers. Let's get back to work. Look at that. Those are even going to stay through to the end. Now they got to be longer. Just going to set them up without these lock washers because we want to get all the grab we can. And I'll replace them with something a bit longer, but these are perfect for the setup. That is held in place. And yeah, it looks like it's engineered properly. So this gets welded to the chassis and then it pops off. But what we were saying with this top hole is the chassis is in the way. If you remember, the chassis is boxed. And that point I showed you, this needs to be accessed through the wall of the frame. Let's go take a look at that. All right, we're coming in on the top view, and here's those pieces I mentioned. And we're using that one as a reference, but look in here now, you got a nice big hole in the frame. So instead of trying to, reach in with a tool and get that bolted once the plate's there, let's just look at this. There's a hole right there. So coming around, you see this 4-bolt pattern. Yeah, that one right there is the close one. I'm gonna put a hole saw in that. I am working the floor cam pretty hard today because I left the other thing in the shop. So yeah, we're going to drill this one. But I did have the foresight to bring a hole saw, so there's good news in that. To take some weight off of this. All right, cool. I'm gonna get the grinder and clean up those weld parts that are on the other side of the inside of the frame. I just got in there and cleaned up the chassis also. And then, yeah, we should be able to get that ratchet in there. Unbolt the steering box. I'm gonna blow this floor off, get all them metal shapes out of the way. So this is what I was saying. You can see my finger. That's how the ratchet will access. This is upside down, but that will access this bolt. It sits inside the chassis. Yeah, that looks good. And then this clearance here, well, just about a finger. Yeah, I like that. It looks real good, in fact. And then once this comes in, I mean, shoot, do we just tack it? I think we do. Yeah, I think right there. All right, let me set up the welder. I know my hand's in the way. I'm gonna try to tack it right on the front. And then we'll take a look with my big mitt out of the way. It'll take a minute to set up the welder. As you can see, we'll get a full weld across here, some here, and we're probably just gonna have to gusset it and then grab a plate coming in through here. HTP welders are gonna love that shot. I didn't even set that up. He did ask me to help promote, and it's a good welder. I turned up the heat and wire speed accordingly. Just gonna tack this on. We're probably gonna have to bend this thing a little bit just to get it straight, but right now, so this is what we're talking about. I just tacked it right up in there. Let's get on top and take a look. Oh, actually, let's cover this. See how this is horizontal? And that's what I was saying. I didn't want this to like swing up and down as it turned. And there's just enough room for this to get by. This isn't tight, so once it's drawn up, it'll just be a little bit above that, but these two will only get further apart. And as this swings into place, boom, we'll make all that work. All right, so looking at it from up top, I think it's in good position. If you look right between the chassis and that plate, there's just a little bit of gap there. But what I don't like is how much grab the chassis has to that steering box. Almost none. When you come down here, you can see how far this radius arm's in the way, but it's really hanging down low. So we're gonna have to come in with a gusset. And just to reiterate, real estate is always at a premium in this arrangement, but see here, I'm trying to get the camera into position. So this is coming out basically horizontal because this is horizontal. And since it's a tack weld, I'm gonna try to cheat that just a little bit. Let me see if I can just twist this. Yep, don't break off. Yeah, so there it is. I'm gonna live with that. The angle coming out for the steering is gonna be an issue. But it won't hit this. I'm gonna go ahead and weld that solid, And again, I can't get the camera angle 100%, but I'm gonna have to gusset all the way down from, say, this bolt up. I'll probably do 2 large ones, and that should be sufficient. There will be a lot of leverage on this, the big block engine. Maybe I'll put 3 gussets, because the chassis is boxed. I don't know. We burn a good solid weld right along there. That's always the way, every project. Got a great plan. It just always seems to get more complicated. Especially the angle of this torch right now. Got it. All right, that worked out pretty good. Let's get on top and hit that again. That was a tough angle to weld, just because I was so cramped, but it worked. So I have the wire speed a little low and the voltage a little hot. I'm trying to give this a good melt. I can assure you, one of the last things you want while you're driving around is for this steering box to disconnect. All right, so that is locked up good for temporary. Take a look at this. I wonder if I shouldn't take some weight off the chassis and get some more room. Yeah, so you can see the hardware right through there. That's what I was getting at. So that's cool. And we can unbolt the lower ones there. But I'm gonna do something with the jack. I wanna get some more room in here so we can see this 100%. I'm gonna lower the suspension. When I say lower, in this case, I mean I'm gonna raise the chassis up so that the axle is a little bit further from the frame. Now, do I actually wanna do that? No, I don't. I don't wanna do that because it's gonna complicate matters. The wishbones aren't connected well enough. So what would other Ian do in this situation? Maybe take these tires and stack them. I don't need to suspend the weight of the car. Just trying to take some weight off the springs. You know the old saying, any port in a storm. Just trying to unweight the spring a little bit, not reinvent the wheel. Actually, I could just put it on this side because that's all I'm working on is the steering box side. Just trying to take a little bit of weight off to get some little action from that radius rod to move a little bit. Yep, there it is. Science and engineering hour. Now the whole thing here was to be able to discuss the gussets we're making in here. And no, I don't have to worry about my fingers being in here. There's plenty of room. It's just to increase the view. All right, so coming in now, see that? We get a good visual of what just happened. There's one thing we all know, the shop's never big enough. All right, so yeah, it looks like, I bet 2 gussets. I'm gonna go like this. From here out, letting that bolt show. From here out. I don't see it needing a strap outside the chassis, but we could do that also. Let me get a piece of cardboard, let's discuss. All right, so what I was talking about initially, is having a gusset, maybe like right here. Actually, that looks really good. And I thought I was gonna triangulate it, but what if I came straight down? No, that's gonna hit that. Or what I'm saying is, what if I boxed it? Would that help? I don't think it will. If I came down with a plate like this, and we're hitting that. And remember, the weight's off of that. So, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. I want one like this. And we'll make it out of a 1/4 inch thick. And I'll leave a little bit of end on it. See, so it doesn't go out to 0. Leave a little chunk on it right there. I'll come in here. It's a little bit too big. All right here. Yeah, we'll hit it like this. Or do you want to hit it? Ooh, we could hit it like that. Yeah. Well, does it matter? Like, will vertical be stronger with that out there? Let's just do this. enough to get a ratchet on there. And we're gonna hit it from there. We'll leave it out a bit as well. So yeah, let's put an R on this. What's the R for? Roussels, that's right. Man, this is totally overkill. I have it, it's 1/2 inch. Let's make it out of that. As I said, the last thing you want is to find that steering disconnecting on you. So we got 1/2 inch, let's just make it out of that. R for back. Just looking at the camera, and these fancy things you're seeing in the corner are the final panels for Jamie's greenhouse. It's only taken me 9 months. I mean, 9 months, not a bad gestation period, right? 9 months to build a very simple thing. All right, so it looks like the mounting plate for that steering box is about 3/8, so that's pretty heavy stuff. So this 1/2 inch, because it's so far away, I think it's just added security. Yeah, we'll set that in right there. Yeah, just like that. Yeah, it's impressive. This small welder really puts the heat into it. See how I'm leaving that gap in there? Can you see the light? That way I get full, I'll weld at both sides. All right, well that's hot. I'm gonna get under there and hit the other side. All right, you could hear the change in the attitude of that weld. Up top, I had a poor angle on it, so that was the sputtering and hesitation because the steering box was physically in the way, but I can do a cover pass to fill that a little more. But like for here, you'll hear a really nice weld because the angle's perfect. Cool. So that definitely ain't going nowhere. So I'm gonna come back to where that sputtering was with the weird angle. And I just realized there's a little hole drilled in the chassis too, so that was part of it, filling that up. Ah, that's what it is. So the chassis isn't, it's boxed, but it's not a solid tube box. It's an insert. So that's what it was. There was a little gap there, but this is very strong. Let's do the other one. This is a 110 welder. And it gets with the program. I'm not sure about the duty cycle, etc. Somebody brought that up in another video, but I'm working on a regular household outlet in the garage. We do have a refrigerator, a small shop fridge plugged into the circuit. That's kind of it. Yeah, so what do you want to do? Do you want to cross that like that? Yeah, I bet that's the strongest. Yeah, this did come out a little bit big here, but I'll snip that off. Yeah, I changed my mind a little bit once I put this in place, so let me get the grinder. I'm gonna nip this and nip this. I feel like it's gonna look better with a V like that than the other angle. We'll also give that welder a little time to cool down. This is always a good thing. Wow, that's hot. That was one hot bit. All right, now that I'm down here, we got good access. Start off by buzzing this into shape. I just fully welded that box section on the inside into place. Yeah, and I brought the weld right out to that. Very strong. Across the bottom. Let's get up and we'll go out to the other side. And I think that is locked. I feel very confident in the strength of this. Cool. So, yeah, this might be too close. Once I lower it, let's take a look. Might have to clearance that. Dang it. Let's see. Try to steer this straight. I got some weight off. Yeah, sure enough. It's always the devil's in the details. Look at that. Not gonna work at all. Totally hitting. All right, let's lift it up. We'll get the grinder. I'm gonna cut something in there. Check that before driving it. And not a major deal, but it's a deal. Yeah, this whole thing, the angle is really tough to get the grinder in there. But this has to come off again to do the finish work. Drop it now. Much better. Total clearance. All right. So I think we're going to move the steering box back to center. Bring this back to front row center. Actually, I'm going to cycle it all the way through to make sure we don't have any other surprises. As this comes all the way over. No, it's tons of room. Yeah, that swing's even a lot wider than this suspension's gonna need. That's awesome. All right, so let's bring this to straight ahead. Right there, looks parallel with the box. All right, I'm gonna bring up that ball joint from the drag link and just set it in place. And this thing should steer. And we covered this at the beginning. This hole is not tapered. We're gonna have to get a Heim joint on there. But let's just get that set for a test. Actually, I have a taper, a ream. I might just ream that thing. But we're in. Yeah. So let me come in from this side. Yeah. That's our arrangement. Some of the things I was considering, the steering box is not lower than the oil pan, which is groovy. The angle of this universal joint is inadequate. We're gonna need something. That's gonna be a whole different episode. But looking here, the stock tie rod is going to work perfect. No clearance issues with the oil pan or the axle or anything. So that is really good news. And you know, I'm not even gonna, this is the perfect setup. I have a tapered ream. I'm gonna ream that to fit, and that's gonna be tightened. And this scene, I was gonna say this scene is wrapped, but we all wanna see it steered, don't we? Let me put this camera over there. Do a little floor jack boogie, and we'll steer it. It's just, with the height of the car and my floor jack situation, I gotta lower the wheel ramps, yada yada, da da da. See, that's how the reel broke the first time. Gotta stop doing that. I dropped the floor jack just like that, and one of the wheels cracked off. Someone recommended I put a panhard rod on this axle. And I gotta say, I agree with you. Because remember we went through the thing with the shackles? That was something with these years' cars, or the shackles were almost vertical. And they did have a factory panhard rod, so definitely gonna add that. It used to mount off of here, but because the car's so low, it wouldn't fit. I have to reset that. Let me tighten this. Get a little visual from the top. And I think we're out. Because just turning this, I mean, there's no weight on it, really, but I could see this really swapping back and forth. So the panhard rod will eliminate that. But just to say, you know, we got that bolt temporarily on there. And Yeah, it's not very easy right now. These wheel ramps aren't designed for the car to steer. Let me see if I can kick this back. Feel what I'm saying right here? Really not trying to hurt anything or anyone. By steering it, it was scooting the car off of those wheel ramps, so we got a steering box. It's securely mounted. Everything looks cool. Next up, the angle of the dangle. Got to connect this to this. And is not going to happen. I have to move this in the car. So we're closer. You could see. Maybe fender well headers. I got so much room here. That'd be pretty cool. You know, it's a toy. It's a fun car. Not a lead sled lowrider thing. 4 tubes out, back, down. That'll work. Just cut the inner fender wells. I know, it goes on and on. A little more accomplished. Maybe we'll work on this. Maybe we'll work on Little Jewel. We're going to SEMA. This will be the last video until we do that. So look forward to those videos. And yeah, we'll see you on the flip side. A lot of projects going. 3 or 4 right now. We'll see you from the Las Vegas Convention Center.